Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, I was thinking about how some people think that freedom is chasing sensations. And something that I want to bring to your attention is that if you think freedom is like no boundaries, because this word, it changes in context over time. Meaning not being enslaved to someone, not being inhibited, not being restrained, not being restricted. There's lots of synonyms to point out a sort of contraction of what you're allowed to do. And there's a point of freedom that becomes neglect. And if you're just permitting your society to chase sensations wherever they may lead and not warning them of the perils, well, you're going to lead so many people to destruction via trauma. Because intoxicants, drugs, alcohol, lead people to lots of forms of trauma, physical and mental. And when you look at trauma itself, it enters with this emotional hit as well. When something horrible happens to you, the emotions, adrenaline, and the cortisol, it like pumps into your body at an extensive rate. And this is what you feel when you have these PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder flashbacks. And then people seek to get medicated in order to escape what their memory holds onto. So chasing sensations, it really is something quite deadly. Where, imagine you're on a horse, you're going hawking, and you're staring up at this hawk because you want it so bad, and then you didn't see the cliff and you go off the cliff with your horse. Bam! That's really a fascinating angle of how you can symbolize in an allegorical way what chasing sensations can lead to, where they're so busy focused on snatching that out of the sky, out of that ephemeral realm, trying to get that ever elusive sensation, when you're not watching where you're being led. There's too many things in motion, and you can't focus on all of them at once. You don't have the eyes of a chameleon where you can be going woo, and you don't have eyes in the back of your head. And so when you look at how Islam encourages you to be steadfast and to be sort of a passing traveler in this realm, and recall the hadith in Riyadh Salihin, Volume 1, if I got that right, is that, or was it Volume 2? Either way, it was in Riyadh Salihin. But the only thing you're really guaranteed is clothing to cover your private parts, bread, water, and shelter. And Islam isn't a religion of poverty, but if you notice that there's a thread of, even with Buddhists, the cessation of suffering, right? Materialism is not something that the Buddhists are fond of. You have Christian monks who give their, like the Jesuits, for example, if you want to get into their order, you have to give away a lot of your materialistic items. And when you look at us Muslims, you're permitted to have wealth. You're going to be held accountable for that wealth, because remember, Uthman ibn Affan, may Allah be pleased with him, had wealth, right? And that he used that wealth to help the Muslims in their battles and such, and to do charity. But chasing money in and of itself can become a form of worship and shirk. And you have to watch out for that. So chasing money, helps you to chase sensations. And so you have to watch what you go in pursuit of. Islam has a way of enlightening us that using intoxicants to chase highs is not recommended, because you'll lead yourself to destruction. Chasing sensations can become an act of worship because you're solely focused on it more than your prayers, more than your remembrances of Allah, and more than your Islamic duties. So you have to be mindful of that. And women are a form of sensation because of the pleasure that comes from them, both visually and physically. And women chasing sensations of attention, right, with their beauty from other women, compliments, admiration. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be frumpy and not take care of yourself, but there is a difference between a woman who spends thousands of dollars on plastic surgery and doing lots of Botox and contact lenses and fake eyelashes and painting eyebrows on and dinosaur claw fingernails. You know, there's a level to how much they are becoming very vain, because they want to keep that sensation of the admiration of lust from the male and female gaze. So if you use your moral compass that we get from Islam, the Sharia, it's our frame, our boundary, we have a better perspective on, you know, you can have goals, you can enjoy the small things in life, but the endless dopamine circle can make you transgress the limits. And so don't think that you're so free. Let's say, for example, how liberals will, and a lot of conservative Christians will always say, they hate us for our freedom. We are free. You don't know what freedom's like. You know, women should be free. A lot of the times when you dig at what is the core of where they get this idea from, it's sensation chasing. And that's a recipe for disaster. Because you have to be tempered, you have to be measured, you have to be astute in where you're going, why, and the perils that come from the journey. And liberals really indulge in hedonism and intoxicant culture. You meet liberals, they're really into wine, a lot of wine moms on the weekends. Now, to be fair, the Christians in America getting drunk watching the NFL, they like beer and whiskey, and that's a sensation that is a problem. And so, sensation chasing is something that America provides an easy road to. Whether you go to Las Vegas and go gambling, whether you go to San Francisco, Miami, and all these places where strip clubs are, or you go to downtown LA and you see women selling themselves on street corners, sensations are everywhere. And some people's sensation chasing leaves them to be in Kensington, Philadelphia, strung out on fentanyl, bending over in this really weird way. Or they're in Detroit, high on crack, looking in the trash can for recycled bottles. When your society is so free that they neglect themselves and the duty towards their nation and the duty towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you get decay and collapse. And I really do believe that people who encourage sensation chasing, they don't have the health of the people at the core of their belief system, and they don't really care for the consequences that fall from that. I contend that Islam helps you to put your priorities right and to discipline your sensation desires. As in, you may want to feel, like, for example, men like the sensation of having a woman, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them the mercy of allowing them to have 4 wives and whatever the fiqh is around concubinism, which that's above my head, but I do know from my student learning that it's a possibility. Okay? What your right hands possess, captives of war, you name it. A man he has a different drive than a woman, and he can discipline it by containing it within his wives. A woman can desire to have endless materialism, she could have a closet filled with purses and never even wear them, but she just likes that dopamine hit of when the package arrives or when she gets to go home with the shopping bag and take a picture and post it on social media. She likes that sensation of, I bought something. Shopping addictions are really real with women. And the restriction around that is your husband isn't required to buy you excessive wealth. He's not required to give you a luxurious lifestyle. right? That's why the hadiths that are really showing you about the poverty are insightful. And if you look at the wives of the Prophet, may Allah be pleased with them all, they didn't live in giant palaces. They didn't have crowns like the Queen of England. None of that. They didn't have dresses that were decked out in real diamonds and rubies and emeralds. No. They didn't have all that. There was times where all they had was a bag of barley, and they lived in quite humble circumstances. And so we look at them and we see that the capacity for the wives of the Prophet, peace be upon them all, to curb that sensation of materialism and to focus more on spirituality is important. And marriage protects your private parts. So they didn't say, you know what, I'm gonna try to get the richest guy possible, and then deny him the ability of polygamy, and then I'm gonna divorce him if he does, and get a bunch of alimony with the secular government system, and then use that money to fund my lifestyle for the next guy. You know, materialism is a huge problem for women because it's mixed with survival instincts. You want your child to have food, and you want to feel safe in times where there's scarcity. It's just like survival. But then it gets on the border of, well, now I just really want the softest life possible, and I want to escape all feelings of discomfort. And so I'm gonna go with a guy, try to control him as much as possible so that he can be this automaton, this drone that I can puppet around, and he can bend to my every whim, and I can be this sort of megalomaniac monster over his life. And she'll get a high from that sensation of controlling the man of immense wealth, conquering a man who has tons of wealth that can fund her lifestyle and control him like a Pinocchio. So Islam curbs a lot of our female desires that are detrimental to our spiritual health and emotional well-being. Islam helps women not to chase certain sensations. The desire to make men lust and to revel in it is curbed via the Islamic dress code. And from the bare bones, there's the hair, there's loose clothing, and all of the fake discussions around burqa and niqab, colors, cloth type, you name it, cultural differences. But the point is that you're not in a bikini, you're not in a miniskirt or a halter top, tube top, yoga pants. You get the point, is that modesty, both in temperament and physical attire, right, literal attire, is important, and it gets restricted. When we seek loopholes around that, like, oh, well, you know, we're gonna wear a hijab, but we're gonna wear yoga pants, or we're gonna go play volleyball in spandex and spandex tops, but have a hijab on with a lot of makeup, you're like, huh, well, you're kind of not doing what you're supposed to do. But the sensations of using your body as a magnet for the male gaze and for the attraction of female envy is curtailed a lot through Islam. So no matter which way you look at it, from all the different perspectives, Islam doesn't tell you an our code of conduct, right? From what I've seen from reading hadith, sensation chasing isn't something promoted, and we worry about transgressing the limits of Allah. If you're ultimately free and you have no shame, then you're going to neglect yourself, neglect the right of others, and you're going to be so free that you fear nothing anymore. Now you're a menace, you're a tornado to everyone around you, a disturber of the peaceful waters, rippling out and making others contentious. And this will lead to less harmony in society. So, the structure that Islam provides helps you to stop chasing sensations. It's quite fascinating. And I admire our code because it really does help people become better. It helps disciplines men's desires and helps disciplines women's negative habits. And in today's world, we need more control and less freedom. Freedom to just willfully be like a plastic bag blowing in the wind, going from here to there, and then saying, don't judge me when someone tries to advise you that you're heading towards trouble. Well, Islam is the fixer-upper for all of that debauchery and decadent behavior that is degenerate. Let me know what you think. Something that I was pondering upon as I was having my cup of coffee. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you join my blog at www.subscribestar.com/MilhanArchive. Hope to see you there.